Hi, I'm Deborah Arca from Chalice Press, and we're talking about the new book, Stakes is High: Race, Faith, and Hope for America, written by Michael Waters, a pastor and activist in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Waters joins me today. Good morning, Michael.
Thank you so much. Glad to be with you.
Your title, Stakes is High, implies a certain urgency of message to me. Tell us about the title. I know there's more to it than might meet the eye, and what this book is about, and what you hope the reader might glean from this book.
Well, I'm a child of the hip hop generation, shaped and formed by hip hop culture. And one of the cultural artifacts that was formational for me growing up was an album by De La Soul entitled Stakes is High. And there's one particular line within that song that I find devastating when I hear it today, but very accurate as it relates to assessing our present situation. That line says, "A meteorite has more rights than my people." And it's a song that talks a lot about racial politics and the things that happen within urban communities. But it also is a song that everything connected to it is about urgency. So it's a song where the beat is pulsating, where it kind of reverberates through your bones, and it pushes you forward. And I wanted to grab forth to something that not only was inspirational for me in terms of giving insight to the importance of this hour, but something that might also connect with persons within my generation as a clarion call for action. And so, Stakes is High, I pray, comes in the same tradition of Dr. King's Why We Can't Wait, as he talked about the fierce urgency of now. I'm also trying to speak in a similar tenor in terms of why we can't wait, that the stakes are high, and that all people who love justice must act now.
You say in the book that racism, more than any other issue, is America's greatest national security threat. What do you mean by that?
Once again, I think when you look at the arc of history, you see that issues of white supremacy, as it has been expressed in community, continues to be destructive to the American enterprise. It began with American slavery, moved through the Civil War era, Reconstruction era, Jim Crow era, the Civil Rights movement, and even to today, for white supremacy have led to the death of literal millions, and continues to impact our society in a number of ways, from the prison industrial complex to the war on drugs, to the way justice is not meted out equally within communities, and it continues to serve as our greatest threat. I think it's important to recognize that since September 11th, which was a harrowing and horrid day in American history, most acts of terrorism that have been carried forth within America have been enacted by white supremacists. And I believe it, more so than any other threat, serves as our greatest threat to the American enterprise. Think about the number of houses of worship that have been burned in the name of white terrorism. Think about the era of lynching in America, which at its height, at the early portions of the 20th century, a black person was lynched every 2 days within this nation. Think about what we just learned and we've known for a long time, but just finally was reported widely. Miss Bryant, who accused Emmett Till of harassing her and sexually assaulting her in 1955, coming forth and saying that the entire story was made up. And nonetheless, this 14-year-old boy was mutilated and shot and thrown into the Tallahassee River. Over and over again, the system of white supremacy, not just in acts of racial terror in terms of violence, but even the system of environmental racism that has shut people out and has created poison water in Flint, suggests to me that white supremacy is and continues to be our greatest national threat, and continues to create the greatest difficulty in the daily lives of American citizens.
Thank you. Stakes is high.
Indeed.
You wanted hope to have a central role in your book. And the subtitle of the book is Race, Faith, and Hope for America. Why is hope important, and how can we inspire hope in each other in these rather dark times?
It's a very wonderful question. As we're currently been in resistance to the Muslim ban and have been with our Muslim brothers and sisters throughout the week at the airports here in Dallas and in press conference and in strategy sessions. One of the things that I shared with our Muslim brothers and sisters and those that were gathered that may be a gift that comes to them from the black church tradition is that despite the horrors that we have experienced, we always end in hope. There's always the belief and promise of a brighter and newer day to come. It's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, which when you look at that speech in its entirety, it talks about a cash that has been returned, a check that's been returned uncashed, that there are benefits, that there are rights that the people have not received yet. And yet he ends that message to America with hope. I have a dream. This is the vision. This is my hope for a better day. And so to write a text like this that is very difficult at parts to read in relationship to the stories that are told, the narratives that are shared, and to just leave it without any hope or desire for a better day, I think is problematic and works against my ultimate calling as a Christian minister. We have hope because we are a people of hope, and that hope is not just a hope invested in a day to come, the sweet by and by, the ever hereafter, but it's a hope that we can lay claim to today, that we believe that the greatest days for America are not behind us, but in fact they are before us. And we take courage in the sacrifices of generations that have come before us who believed in a better day than the one that they had. We are living in many ways their greatest dreams, and we still recognize that there's more dreaming to be done. And so we're dreaming forward to a better day for our nation. And nonetheless, I pray, if nothing else, I pray that the dreams and hopes that we have will be fulfilled within our children's generation, that the work we do today matters in terms of preparing a better world for them to inherit.
Amen. In the midst of this time of despair among many people fighting for justice, racial and otherwise, what do you see that encourages hope in you in our country today?
One of the beautiful sights that I saw just this weekend were Black, white, Latino, Muslim men and women, some from means, some from lesser means, united together in one cry and rallying voice, saying, this is what America looks like, that we are America, that we are a place that is open to and embraces the immigrant and the refugee, that we are a nation of immigrants, that we are a nation of those who have come seeking refuge, and this is who America is. And that is encouraging. I think sometimes the negative voices become so loud that if you're not paying attention, they feel like they drown out any other call for peace and justice. And to be literally in a space with children and adults, and even our seniors crying out for justice, reminded me, in a real sense, there are more who would stand for justice and who believe in the hope and promise of this nation than those who would stand against, despite how loud the other voices may be.
Thank you. February is Black History Month. And it makes me, I'm enjoying your wall behind you, which I know you've told me about a little bit in the past, and all of the pictures of some of your heroes and the saints from Black history. Who are your heroes from African American history, and who's inspired you and continues to inspire you today?
Well, I've referenced him. And so anyone who knows me knows that the legacy, life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Informs my work greatly. His written words, his actions provide strength for me. And so Dr. King is clearly one of my heroes. Also from that era, Deaconess Rosa Parks, a member of my denomination, African Methodist Episcopal Church, is a true hero of mine. And someone who is not, I believe, even with the reverence given, is actually given the honor due. She was not simply someone who just one day decided she was not going to get up from her seat, but she was a woman trained in resistance who attended the Freedom School and who had put her body on the line, knowing that she was important to the movement going forward. So again, I think we need to shift that narrative of her experience as opposed to this just being a random act. But this was a trained and prepared foot soldier who was committed to justice. But on my wall, oftentimes when people are in this space, in one of my offices and looking around, I ask them, well, what do you think is the most important picture here? And everyone has their own ideals, and maybe I'll give it away now forever. But the most important picture on my wall is a picture of my grandfather, the late Bishop W. Williams, who was a giant of a man, the greatest man I've ever known, the most courageous man I've known. And in the frame with his picture, I have a very unique accompaniment to this picture, which is a card of the Ku Klux Klan from 1934 here in Dallas, Texas, that I found at an antique store. And the reason I put those together is because growing up with my grandfather, spending summers with him, traveling through Central Texas, he would tell the greatest stories of his experience, of our family's experience, and how they interacted with the American experience. And one of the things he used to tell me all the time was, Michael, I grew up in the fear of the Ku Klux Klan. During his days in Central Texas, it was a very real possibility that one might be apprehended and lynched by the Klan. And so he talks about his earliest formations as a young boy growing up in the fear of the Ku Klux Klan. But over the arc of his life, he tells another story at the time when he served with the NAACP, when a member of the Ku Klux Klan, in fact, the Grand Dragon of the Klan, visited him at his home. This is a story I've told on HBO, and it's a story that's also in the book. And when the Grand Dragon came to his door, my grandfather actually invited the man in his home for coffee, set him down in the living room, and very sternly told him that he was not going anywhere, that there was nothing that this man could do to stop his commitment to the call of justice. And to me, that speaks to the courage all of us must have in this hour, that whatever fears we subscribe to at any point in our life, we must overcome them with the help of God, to know that if we stand for justice, that God stands with us. And so for me, that's the most important picture in this space, because when I see it, I see strength, I see courage, and I see it as a family inheritance to continue forth and to pass on to my children.
That's powerful. What a great lineage you've come from.
I'm honored and thankful for my family.
Yes. Well, and you are carrying that on quite powerfully in your own work and life and ministry, and so we're grateful for that. Just last question. What is one thing, if only one thing, it needs to be many more things, but what's one thing each of us can do to be a part of building a more just world for African Americans, for all?
I think it all begins as we continue to eliminate these lines of separation. And to me, that is an action that happens in intimacy. It's very hard to build relationship from a physical distance, from a spiritual distance. It requires us to see each other in the lives of one another, to recognize that we're really not different, that we have, and for our families, and continue to close the gap. I don't think there's anything we can do with greater resistance to injustice than to teach a young child to love someone else. And that is something that I hope that we are doing, my wife and I, as parents. That's our greatest act of resistance. As they see Daddy on television sometimes, as they see him speaking at press conferences, as they see the work that we're doing, we often take time to ask them, well, why do you think Daddy and Mommy are involved in the things that we're involved in? Why do you think it's important? And they've begun to respond, well, you're doing it for us so that we can have a better world. And we respond, absolutely. These sacrifices are for you and for children everywhere, that you will not have to grow up in the same atmosphere of negativity and racism that has haunted this nation for so many generations. And so, maybe to answer your question, what we all can do is to pour out love in the hearts of young people, to show them the hope and possibility of a better way, and to give them the courage to fulfill that way in their own lifetimes as we attempt to do so in ours.
Beautiful. I think your next book should be a parenting book.
Well, if so, it has to be co-authored with my wife.
All right. Well, I think we're signing you up for that. I think that was some pretty excellent advice for all of us out here trying to raise kids in this world. All right. Well, if you want some more of this goodness, Stakes is High, Raise Faith and Hope in America, available now wherever books are sold, and certainly at Chalice Press, www.chalicepress.com. Thank you so much, Reverend Waters, Michael, for being here today. We appreciate your time and so grateful for all the good work that you're doing in the world. Stakes is High. Go get your copy and join the movement for justice today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.